this video we're going to be talking about the scenarios and how to play the game, essentially.
Yes.
All right. So on page 23 of the book that you can actually download, the rules, we've talked about this. So this is just a PDF that we printed out. Game setup. Unless otherwise stated by the scenario setup, Mythos is played on a 3x3 game area and terrain should cover at least a third of the play area, which we did in the first video.
So plenty of stuff to run around on.
Yeah, and consider putting in like multi-levels, stairways, piles of barrels
If
and
you've got
crates.
them,
Areas where you can jump, areas where a standard sized model could probably squeeze through and something bigger can't. Just for a bit of action and adventure, you know.
Ladders and stuff.
Be creative and things like that. So as far as terrain that's available commercially, Warcradle Studios does actually make a variety of MDF kits that are pre-painted. You just basically pop them together. There's anything from the Dun's Mouth, which is like Innsmouth, but they call it Dun's Mouth. So fishing town sort of terrain and things like that.
Well, it'd have to be.
Things like a swampy bio, but there's all sorts of terrain for all different parts of what is the Americas, the states of Americas there, where it's all sort of happening.
Yeah, the alternate America.
The alternate. For selection, players should agree to a point limit in advance of the game, but you'll find that 100 points is a good starting point.
It makes a reasonable game. And one faction box is 100 points, right?
Yes.
So it's like it's the easiest way to play.
That's right. Yeah, it gives you the most variety. So work on that. As you sort of get a bit better, and there are some models that you can have multiples of, you might want to try and
you can up the points a little bit and stuff like that. But 100 is pretty good.
So deployment. Each player rolls 2d6, with the winner deciding whether to deploy first or second. So the player who deploys first chooses a deployment zone and then places all of their models within it. The next player then deploys all of their models within their deployment zone. So straightforward. If you want to go first, you'll get to pick, but you've got to put everything out on the table first.
Yeah. Which is not too bad.
Barring any little abilities and
junk
sneaky
like that. Yeah,
stuff.
there are things that let you like stealth and
correct,
deploy after everybody else and stuff like that somewhere.
Abraham Lincoln in the Secret Service set, he has an ability at the start where once everyone's deployed, he can redeploy one of his units.
Ooh,
that's quite handy.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Considering he's got a guy with a bazooka, you might want to put him somewhere else at the end. But yeah. Oh, dear. All right. Okay, so turn sequence, start phase, going through it. 1, initiative. So players each roll 2d6. Okay? The player with the highest result has initiative and decides who will activate the first character. After the first turn, the player with the least mythos remaining in their pool gains +1 to their initiative rolls. And there were a few games that we played where that actually made a difference.
Yeah.
But just that 1 point. It's quite handy.
Using your mythos is a good thing. It gets you initiative, a bonus to your initiative on the next turn.
Yeah.
So using up those points, doing things with them is actually an advantage.
It's all about temptation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's
the
it.
Mythos can really do some great stuff.
It can drive you people insane.
That's right.
It helps out.
And the player when your whole force starts falling apart.
Yeah.
But ties must be re-rolled, still applying any Mythos bonus if applicable. So re-rolls on ties is easy. Step 2, generate mythos. Players discard any unspent mythos and generate a new mythos pool from their remaining characters by adding their myth values together, which is the little green circle on the character card.
Yeah.
It says myth there.
Yeah,
so.
we went through that on the character card anatomy thing. But that means that you are scraping away all the stuff you haven't spent and you're generating a new one, allowing for people that have been knocked out. So
that's right.
If someone's been taken out of the battle, they're not generating myth anymore. So it'll slowly deteriorate. Again, another incentive to use it while you've got it.
That's correct. Yeah. This really is quite a useful resource, but very dangerous too.
Just dangerous.
Necessary evil. And then you go on to the activation phase. So in turn, players choose and activate one character that hasn't been activated this turn. Repeat until all characters have been activated. Every one of your models, assuming they aren't incapacitated in some way, are going to get an activation. All right.
So even if you've got more characters than somebody else, once they've finished using theirs, you just go through yours one at a time until you're finished.
Yeah.
You just keep going.
But it is a 1-for-1, so you've really there will be times when you play your games where you've got to really make a hard strategic choice.
Yeah. But there's a bunch of these smaller, like skirmish scale games that are like that, where which one you pick to move and when you pick to move it is really actually can get pretty important. But yeah.
And then you have the end phase. You check at the end of each turn. So victory conditions. So each scenario details how victory points are earned each turn, which we'll go through when we have a look at them. Check the scenario's victory conditions and determine if there is a winner. If there's no winner, resolve and remove any end of turn effects and proceed to the next turn. And it's up to the scenario limit in turns.
Some of them will, a fair few of them will have like a turn limit that you're allowed to go to.
Yeah. So the scenario will dictate where you deploy, what sort of area and any sort of conditions and things like that you need to be aware of. So shall we have a look at those now? I think we've set the groundwork.
We might as well start with number one, even though we've played it to death.
Scenario number 1, S1, Chance Encounter. So basically what's happened is the two forces have come together. There's no underlining scenario objective other than to basically take out the other force.
It's a death match.
It's a death match.
It's a death match.
Right.
It's just straightforward, easy to do, easy to set up, death match.
Yep.
Bang.
And it's good. It gives you a chance to sort of see how your force would actually work. If they don't have any other restrictions other than, it's like nothing.
Try
really.
and stay
Just
alive
try and
and kill
stay
the
alive.
other guy.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can see what sort of groups work best together and things like that.
And this is the one that we were playing to get the hang of the rules. This is the one that I would recommend that people do play to get the hang of the rules, because it gives you combat straight and forward. It gives you 5 turns.
Yep.
Standard 6-inch deployment, which means you're in 6 inches from each side.
Yep. Full
and
length
there's
of the
just
table,
a
which is nice.
big length expansive table to go across and hit each other with.
And do whatever. Yep.
It's perfectly fine.
Get used to using terrain as cover. See what sort of difference that makes. Look at your characters that have certain abilities that might give them advantages on multi-level terrain.
Yeah.
And teaming up and things like that. But yeah, it's good. 6-inch deployment, 24-inch gap, no man's land essentially.
Yeah.
And just get in there and mix it up.
Yeah, like I say, 5 turns, no special rules. The objective is to eliminate the opposing faction, and you get victory points based on defeating enemy models. So at the end of the game, so at the end of the 5 turns, you get 1 victory point for every enemy model defeated, and you get 1 victory point for first blood, which is the first casualty. So if you inflict the first death, then you get an extra victory point, and you get 1 extra victory point if you kill the enemy leader.
That's
Easy.
it. Yeah.
Easy.
But yeah, really, really good to learn with. We've played a lot of games just like that, and yeah, it's good.
So that's what is it? 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6. Ooh, I don't think the familiar counts though, does he? I'm not sure.
He's a character.
He is a
He
character.
has a card.
isn't he?
Yeah.
So technically, I can get 6 points off you, but you can only get 5 off of me.
Yeah.
Ah.
I'll just have to get them quicker, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's it.
All right. So that's pretty straightforward.
That's an easy one.
So scenario 2, Tombs of Power.
Yeah.
So the base of this one is that there are 3 tombs, like books of lore or something, and basically your force has to get it before the other force does. Yep. And by reading it, you score victory points and it's basically a keepy off and read and run.
Yeah, so you
it's
have
a read and run.
You have to pick the tomes up and carry them around and read them while you're running around trying to battle each other, which I find hilarious. But there you go, such is life. So you mark 3 objective markers in the middle of the battlefield. So they're 9 inches in from the edge, and then 9 inches each, like between each. So you'll have 3 of them across the middle of the battlefield there.
Yeah.
And you have a 1 victory point, a 2 victory point, and a 3 victory point randomly shuffled up face down.
That's it.
So you don't know which one's which. And then you deploy as normal. You've got, again, 5 turns. Your objective is to acquire and read mysterious ancient tomes to gain their power. And victory conditions are at the end of each turn after the first. You score victory points based upon the value of any objectives interacted with during that turn. So if you read the 1 victory point and the 3 victory point, then you'll get 4 victory points total. And then you get first blood, so first casualty inflicted, and 1 victory point for the enemy leader.
I feel it's going to be a lot like the football or any other game where someone's got the ball and suddenly the other team's after you.
Yeah, I tackle the guy with the book. I don't think that's supposed to be that way. So this one's got special rules.
Yeah, there's some additional rules with it, so you know exactly how to do it.
Yep. So if an unengaged model is in base contact with an objective marker, they can spend 1 action point to pick it up and place it on their character card. An unengaged character holding a tome can acquire its ancient knowledge by spending 1 action point and gaining 1 madness. There isn't a roll for that. You spend an action point and you gain a madness.
You go mad.
So
decide if you've got the 1 victory point book. Do I want to risk a madness
for
that?
Got one of those big characters that can that doesn't have a madness limit, then get them near the objectives and get them one of them so that they can read it.
Yeah, true.
Because otherwise you're going to be going mad within the first couple of turns. This counts as interaction with a tome for victory point purposes, so that gets you victory points equal to the number that's on the thing. Players can only interact with each tome once per turn, so you can't read it, chuck it to your friend and have them read it as well to get extra points. I thought of that. They obviously did too. Models may freely move over an uncontrolled objective marker, however they may not end their activation on it, so you can't block. If an objective marker blocks a charge, place the objective marker in base contact with the charging model after the move is completed. So you kind of, if you charge into someone and you end up covering the thing, then you just push it off to one side. But you aren't technically allowed to move onto it. Your charge can take you on there and push it out of the way, but you can't move on there just as is. So characters holding a tome may pass it to a friendly model in base contact for 1 action point. A character may take a tome from a friendly model in base contact for 1 action point, which means that you can do it either way around. So you've only got 2 actions per turn, so it's very important that you use them properly for each person, each character. So you can either take it away from someone and then spend an action to read it, or you can have them use their last action to give it to you, so you can read it and then shoot someone or something like that. That's important to put in there just because of that.
But I mean, if it could only be interacted with once per round, I'd probably still risk someone to get a point of madness. If it means 3 victory points, I suppose.
Well, if you find the 3 straight away, then you'd read it and then
do it,
pass it to the big guy that doesn't get madness, and he can run off with it, sort of thing. But that's the thinking that I've got, is maybe you want to pass it off before you read it. You could then move, pass it to someone, have them move and read it.
Yeah,
and so you're out of the way and you're not getting mugged with the book. As long as it gets read once each turn while you own it, then it's points.
And that's points, yeah.
Character cannot carry more than 1 objective marker at a time. Characters in possession of an active marker gain 1 arcane attack and 1 arcane defense.
Hello.
It's not bad.
Well, that makes Professor Zachary Lazarus armor arcane defense 10. He's a monster with one of those.
That's insane. So yeah, don't be throwing fireballs at someone with this on, because you'll probably miss. After making a successful combat attack against an enemy character carrying a tome, the attacking character may choose to either apply wounds as normal or take the tome instead.
Oy.
So if you beat them by 12 or 13, then I'd be doing the wounds.
Yeah.
But if you beat them by 1 or 2, then just snatch the book out their hands and run off.
I think so.
That's the way to go.
Or quickly read it in front of them. Well, you can't because you're engaged. But you would have to get away.
Oh dear.
Oh, but that's interesting. But they've added a lot more madness to that scenario, because you're still going to be doing your mythos. You're still going to be attempting other things to have to more madness on the table.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about what type of characters can hold it. It's just you can't be engaged with an enemy model when you use it. So you could give it to someone who doesn't gain madness. I'm assuming you can't give it to like a crab or something. You'd have to give it to a humanish character.
But well, you don't know. It's magic. Maybe just holding it allows them to communicate.
That's it. I mean,
it could be anything.
It's a thing. So that would be a little bit of house ruling, whether or not you could give it to this fella here, or the big guy, or the what's his features, the Wildborn guy.
Oh, so nice.
If he'd picked it up, because I don't think he has a madness stat, does he?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. So he could pick it up and be reading it while he's tanking arcane attacks and just getting 3 victory points every turn.
And he gets smart and suddenly he needs glasses.
So,
well.
Puts on a beige sweater and stuff. Dear oh dear. So yeah, that one's going to be building up madness quite quickly.
That'd be crazy. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting scenario.
And I would say there'd be a fight in the middle over people trying to get them as quickly as possible.
Well, then again, be creative with your terrain as well. Don't have a direct run to it. Have it in some difficult terrain in a building or something. Even multi-level. Maybe it's up higher.
Yeah.
Have something like that. You fight you at the top and it's the number one. You're like, oh. But still, points and points.
Points and points.
If you've earned it.
If you win, you win. Oh dear. So number 3?
Yes, sir. Gate Jumper.
Gate Jumper.
A convergence of mythos has occurred and powerful energies flow throughout the area. 5 unfathomable gates have suddenly materialized, their raw power causing the air around them to crackle and just discharge static. Nice. So basically this is a control the gates. This is control an area to gain victory points. You've got 5 teleporting gates basically. So one's in the middle and then in a diagonal formation, do like a cross thing.
So the 5 on a dice.
Yeah, so
5 pips on a dice.
12 inches apart from the center one, 6 inches in. And it's like, it's interesting, eh? So 5 small objective gates per the diagram deploy into opposite corners as depicted in the diagram. So you've got a corner placement instead of a long edge. Still physically the same amount of space, I'd say, but it's just slightly different with the deployment.
Yeah.
It's like an L shape. But that's pretty good. So gain and keep control of as many gates as possible at the end of each turn after the first. So your first, you're not going to score anything. Keep that in mind. Unless you kill something, of course. They earn 1 victory point for every gate they control. And then you've got victory points for first blood and killing the leader as per normal, because everyone loves that. So the gates start as a neutral state, so they're not owned by anyone. Whilst in base contact with a gate, an unengaged character can change its alignment by spending an action point and 1 mythos. Well, if you spend...
I don't know if that would count as needing a sanity roll, would it? Or would it? That's interesting.
Character may change its alignment to their own faction by spending 1 action point and 1 mythos. If you spend mythos, then you have to do a check.
You have to do a check, don't
That's under the rules. So I would play it like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Players may not move over a gate nor end their movement on them. That's fair enough. Any character in base contact with a gate may attempt to move to another gate, regardless of alignment, for 1 action point.
Which
you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's nasty.
Anywhere on those 5 points. You go from yours to one of the other 4. That's really cool.
So the character first attempts a sanity test. If they pass successfully, the model is moved into base contact with another gate. If it's failed, they don't move and suffer 1 wound as they are attacked by maniacal creatures from within its depths. Sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So there's some gate jumping FAQs in there. So if you're in base contact and you're engaged with an enemy, can you jump through? Yes, there's rules in there for that.
No disengaging strikes if you suddenly leap through a gate.
That's right. Yeah.
But you go to a random gate.
It can be random, yeah. And there's a few other things in there. So some of them are specific to certain factions and things like that. But it's all pretty much explained in there. Just essentially, hold a position and see how well you do. Until something big and evil comes along and just eats you. Because that's going to happen, I'm sure.
Dear.
But there's a lot of locations on that table to look after. You've got 5, a potential 5. So maybe forces that are a little bit more numerous might be of benefit there. But
Well,
I don't know.
I've got 5 dudes. There's 5 gates. I can go from one to any of the others with one action. So I can go in and
Boosh, yeah.
splooge out to
Yeah,
the
that's right.
edge. And then you're fighting 1-on-1, of course. So, I mean...
Especially with some of that random one, if you get into a random location, that can be awkward.
You're getting 1 victory point if you control it. So if you can control 3 of them, or 2 of them even, before your opponent does, then you're building up victory points faster than them.
That's correct.
So
yeah.
you've got that point capture thing where you're trying to figure out which one you want to go for and which one you want to keep and which one you're willing to give up, etc., etc. Going over and annoying them by taking over theirs and then running away.
Well, that's another thing too.
That's
like
what
the
I do.
whole, everyone's really mobile. So if you've got a character that moves really fast naturally, and then now they've got access to portals.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, you've got that, like we were doing with the point capture in the BattleTech one that we did. If you're capturing them, it doesn't matter if you've captured it because you want to keep it, or you've captured it just to annoy the enemy, just to say, well, this one's mine now, and it's going to start making points. You need to come and get it.
That's it.
Meanwhile, I'm going to defend these other ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could go in on the first turn, split everybody up to 1, and on the next turn spend 1 action, as long as you're not engaged, to control any of those, and then just blip to the enemy. That would be cool.
Ooh, a plan. There's plans.
That would be cool.
Probably
There's
come up
plans.
with more plans as we go. So
Yeah, I just thinking that would be really, really cool.
On paper, it
I like
seems
that.
very interesting. It seems like a real challenge.
That's a good one.
All right, so let's have a look at scenario
Number
4.
4.
Destroy the relics.
No, you keep the relic.
You do, yeah. You don't destroy them. You steal them like Indiana Jones. And you put them into museums, which is what happened.
Rescue them. It's a touchy subject. Mr. Jones.
Every lunar cycle, raw Mythos energies are released into the air. Unstable, dangerous, and not easily channeled, they have to be captured by powerful faction artifacts and relics. So you place 2 large base objective markers in the center of the play area. So the other ones that we've been looking at, they've had like standard base size, so a person, size 1.
Small
So
base,
small.
yeah.
They call it small, it's size 1 or 2, I'd say. So, but these are bigger. So you could actually be a bit creative. It doesn't have to be like on a round base, as long as it's similar.
Yeah.
Like I had a look at these, which is just a fish tank thing, but it's
thing, yeah.
But I mean, it's bigger, so you could have something like that. So for this one, you're basically placing 2 of them in the center of the play area, 6 inches away from each player's deployment zone. All right, so it's not in a corner; it's a full length, and it's basically protect yours and take out theirs. But it's not actually destroying it. You basically spend an action point while you're in base-to-base contact with it, and that gives you a victory point. It's essentially representing you taking the power from theirs and helping you. So it's pretty good. So it's 5 turns. You inflict the most damage to your opponent's ancient artifact relic. So a model may spend an action point, just like taking any other action, to score 1 victory point while in base contact with an opponent's objective marker. So you should be able to do that multiple times. It doesn't say once. It just says it's just like another action.
It doesn't have special rules on that one, which is interesting.
No.
So yeah, if you're right next to it already and you're unengaged, then you should be able to spend both your actions.
So you you can get 2 to 3 VPs depending on the character that's there. Plus you also score victory points for first blood and killing the leader.
Because that's
and
how
why
you do it.
wouldn't you want to, take them out?
These are all death matches. They've just got interesting extras.
That's right, yeah. But I mean, again, the terrain. If you place the terrain so it's not straight to it, it'll be quite cool.
You have like a little horseshoe of like rough terrain or difficult terrain or something around it, like roughly around each one.
Yeah.
So everybody who wants to go to the opposite one has to go round or something.
That's it.
That would be kind of cool.
But you've only got 5 turns, so you want to make it as
five turns.
interesting as possible.
Hmm.
All right. Right.
Number
Scenario 5. The joining. Taryn, do you want to take us through that one?
So, broken must be remade. That which has been torn asunder must reunite. The sleepers must be called from the shadows. The joining will guide them to the light. The pull of the artifact has drawn you here, though you thought you'd be alone. You recognize them, the enemies who wish to end the glory of your masters. They have crossed you at every turn, hoping to destroy the artifacts before they can be used for their glorious purpose. Dun, dun, dun. So each player must place one objective marker on their leader's character card.
Yeah.
That's your artifact half. And then you do standard deployment, which is 6 inches in, you've got the 24-inch no man's land and 6 inches on the other side.
Yeah, same thing as your scenario 1. Yep. Very basic setup.
You got 5 turns to do this, and the objective is to acquire your opponent's artifact half and perform the ritual of joining or destruction, whichever you feel like. At the end of each turn, players earn 1 victory point for each artifact half they control. In addition, 1 victory point is scored for First Blood and 1 victory point for killing the enemy leader. Alternatively, if one player performs the ritual of joining or destruction, they win. Okay?
Whoa.
So you've got 5 turns. Each of you is building up 1 point per turn. And if you just let it go at that, then you're both going to be even. Right? So someone has to do something to stop that.
Yeah.
But if you can perform the ritual, then you win, no matter what. A model may not voluntarily drop an artifact half. A model may pass an artifact half to a friendly model for 1 action point. A myth model may not be given an artifact half. Well, there you go. That wasn't in the one with the tomes.
No.
So,
It sizzles, you see. It's
Exactly,
got so much
yeah.
power.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
If an unengaged model is in base contact with an artifact half, they can spend 1 action point to pick it up and place it on their character card. If a model is carrying an artifact half when it's removed from play, the objective is placed in base contact with that model immediately before removing the model. So you just drop it next to yourself.
Yeah.
If a model has both artifact halves, they may perform the ritual of joining or destruction for 1 action point, ending the game.
Whoa. Big epic. Oh.
You basically, you're handing it to your leader first.
Well, your leader starts with it, but it might be somebody else.
Your leader starts with it, but if you pass it to somebody else, then you better be sure you're passing it to someone who's going to stay alive. Because if they go into the middle of everybody else and get bodied, then they're going to drop this thing. Somebody else is going to pick it up and they're going to win.
That's right.
It's a intense game of keep you off.
That is, yeah, it is actually. Oh yeah. And depending on the faction as well, will have a different play style on how they would complete that scenario, because there's 2 ways. You can just try and just VP it.
Well, you only get victory points for each artifact half you control. So if you can take out the person with the artifact half, they start dropping behind in points.
That's right.
So if you can take their leader down within the 5 turns and nobody else picks that artifact half up, then you've got a victory point plus, and boom, you're in the lead.
That's right. Yeah.
But
you need to win by 1.
You need to win by 1. Getting them both and
win.
performing the ritual would be the way to go, though.
Definitely. Oh, definitely.
So number 6.
Now this one's a little bit more to it. They've saved the most complicated for last. No, it's not complicated.
It's not too bad.
So, Black Sun's Ascendant. There is another world alongside this one. There's probably heaps of them, to be honest.
Yeah. Quantum.
Yes, it presses against the boundaries of sanity, seeping through when the stars are right. Tonight is such a time when the constellations above have twisted beyond recognition. Black suns pulse against the midnight sky, a sign of their coming. The gate must be opened if they are to manifest and make their will reality. The site is prepared, foul deeds done, and stones consecrated with innocent blood.
Sounds bad.
Not safe for work. Did we mention that? We should have mentioned that at the start.
Not safe for work.
Not safe for work.
Oh dear.
So yeah, so if you like your beasts and horrible things that come spewing out of portals, this is probably your scenario.
This is the one.
So you place a suitable terrain piece with an objective marker in the centre of the board. This is the sacred site, which is representative of any kind of raised dais, shrine or similar. Something that's going to stand out. That's
like a little
thing.
altar or a hillock or something that you can use.
Mm-hmm. So you have the standard deployment from the first scenario, 6 inches forward, full length of the board, 24-inch no man's land in front, 5 turns, and Complete the ritual and open the gate for the masters or prevent their coming.
One of those.
You do the same thing and you choose whatever you want to do, basically.
Yeah, basically.
So at the end of each turn, players earn 1 victory point if they have the most models within 3 inches of the sacred site. If there's an equal number, neither players score. All right, so first off, you want more models than your opponent, I guess.
Yeah.
First off, just looking at that.
Yeah.
Players score 1 victory point for destroying a hex beast, however it is generated. Yeah. And in addition, 1 victory point is scored for first blood.
I'd be scared too.
It would be scared, yes, and for killing the enemy. They seem to be in all of them.
Yeah,
seems
that's
to be in all
pretty
of them,
much
so.
across the board.
And you'd need something like that to break it.
And I'd say if you're making your own, I would put that in there too, because it seems fairly standard, and I think it's actually a reasonable rule.
Yeah. So if a player scores 1 victory point for having the most models within 3 inches, then the opposing player may place a hex beast anywhere within 3 inches of the sacred site if possible.
Mm.
So yeah, hex beast. Anyone who's tainted in this game has the keyword tainted, rolls on the tainted madness table, which we talked about in an earlier one. They can actually be turned into a hex beast as well, which is interesting.
Wow,
So there's lots of ways for hex beasts to appear.
Yeah, so they've got their own madness tables. So the normal madness tables are back there. These are specific to this scenario, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, and they do exist as part of the greater thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a card for them. I'll put it up on the screen so we can.
Oh no,
have a look at
overtaken
them.
by the hex. So they're the same deal.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought they were a separate one.
Yeah, so they have
That's
their
all
own
right.
little stack card and things that they can do and they can't do and whatever.
Oh, I meant the madness table.
Oh, the madness table.
Yeah. No, they're separate. They're the same thing.
So these things just keep popping out, basically. They'll attack anybody, as far as I can tell.
And there's also the threat of the inhuman things coming through the void. So at the start of each model's activation, it has to make a sanity test. If it's failed, the opposing player may choose to place that model up to 6 inches away from its current position.
Oh,
So you can
placing.
Yeah, you can just zip people around the board.
Oh.
If they fail their sanity test, then you get to place them. And if your guys fail their sanity test, then your opponent gets to place them. So that can get real ugly real quick. Real quick.
Well, especially if you're trying to keep away from something that's heading towards there, and you just go here, just go closer.
Well, I mean, if you're trying to win and there's people standing around the altar and they're failing their sanity tests, then they have to be within 3 inches to count for the most models.
Yeah.
So you can move them 6 inches away from the altar and they don't count
And
anymore.
they get nothing. Yeah,
That's
annoying.
Yeah.
And if you have multi-level terrain, you could place them like on the roof.
Yeah. And
Also,
then they have
you
to
got to
go
climb
down.
down every. Oh, what a pain in the
That's
butt.
pretty cool.
That could be fun. We could have some fun with that actually.
I don't know if I want to play that one against you. Though. I think you can get somebody else into that one.
That's
Yeah.
cool. But six scenario. Look, the first one's basic is to teach you, and it has basically the same sort of rules that happen in all of them. You just score for killing.
Oh,
other
I
players
would
as well.
thoroughly recommend that if it's your first game. I would say number one,
Yeah.
don't even think about it. Don't roll or anything. Just play a quick death match and get the hang of your characters. Is
Yeah.
the point. But yeah, then you can branch out and you can do this other stuff because they're funky.
Yeah, no, they're good. So there's 6 scenarios. You could even play them as a campaign thing. I don't
Go
know what
through
we've decided what we're going to do.
Each
but
one.
we're just gonna-
I think we're probably just going to roll and ignore ones.
and just something like that. Ignore ones.
We might just roll and ignore anyone and see what scenario we get.
So that's those, and we have in front of us the 2 factions that we have chosen to take for our first game. It's
Yes.
going to be a learning thing, so we're going to sort of talk as we go. So it's not like a full-on battle report. So if you're interested in seeing how all of this stuff goes into play, while
Yep.
using 2 different forces with different themes and styles or whatever,
Yeah.
then the next video is the one for you. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what we've got and what they can
Common
do.
forces.
And then you'll see what we've, and then we'll let you know what scenario we're going to do.
Because I used the Wildborn last time when we were playing before, and we thought, well, we'll branch out a bit, and so I'm playing with Click Clack.
Click clack.
He's cool.
Yes.
All right, all good.
That's it.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.